I always believed real endings came with warning signs, raised voices, cold silence, a final argument that made everything obvious. This one didn't. It arrived disguised as routine. If you'd asked me a year ago how we were doing, I would have said, good, solid. Not great, not bad, just steady, and I meant it as a compliment. Her name was Emily. We met the way adults do, through overlapping circles, mutual friends, shared weekends that slowly turned into something consistent. She liked how calm I was. I liked how easily she laughed. Neither of us thought much further than that at first. We moved in together after 2 years. No dramatic proposal. No big conversation. It just made sense. Same commute, same rhythm, same idea of what later looked like. Emily believed in growth, not the motivational quote kind, the quiet kind, talking about feelings, checking in, asking questions that didn't have clean answers. I believed in maintenance. Fix what's broken. Don't overthink what's working. Those philosophies lived side by side longer than they should have. She noticed things I didn't. The way I answered emotionally loaded questions with logistics. The way I changed the subject when conversations slowed down. The way I treated uncertainty like a problem instead of a feeling. Do you ever think about the future? She asked once. I told her, of course. What I meant was promotions, savings, stability. What she meant was us. I didn't realize then how often we were having two different conversations with the same words. There was a Sunday afternoon, gray sky, half-finished coffee, laundry humming in the background. She sat across from me at the table, not tense, just quiet. Can I say something without you trying to solve it? She asked. That sentence always made me brace myself. I'll try, I said. She told me she felt like she was always reaching first, emotionally. She said she didn't feel met halfway anymore. Not abandoned, just alone in company. I listened. I nodded. And then I did what I always do. I explained. I told her I showed love differently, that consistency mattered, that not everything had to be talked through. I said things I believed were reasonable. She didn't argue. That scared me more than anger would have. I know you care, she said, and then she paused. I just don't know if you choose me anymore. That word again. Choose. As if love wasn't something that stayed put once established. After that, she changed, subtly. She stopped initiating deep conversations, stopped asking how I felt, stopped waiting for the right moment. At first, I felt relieved, less pressure, more peace. I told myself this was what mature relationships looked like. Calm, predictable, low maintenance. She started spending more time out of the apartment. Nothing suspicious, just elsewhere. Classes, long walks, coffee with people whose names I didn't recognize anymore. One night, she came home later than usual, not guilty, thoughtful. She kissed my cheek and said, I'm tired. And I believed her. Weeks passed like that. Nothing wrong enough to fix, nothing loud enough to confront, just a growing sense that something was quietly being decided without me. Then there was the email. Not dramatic, just a subject line I didn't recognize, a program she'd applied to months earlier, out of state. I asked her about it casually. She looked at me for a moment before answering. I wanted to see if I could, she said. That sentence landed heavier than she intended. Are you planning to go? I asked. I don't know yet, she replied. But the way she said it told me something important. She already knew. That night, lying next to her, I realized something uncomfortable. I had assumed time was on our side. That love, once established, stayed unless actively destroyed. I didn't understand that sometimes love doesn't end. It just quietly outgrows the space it's given. And somewhere between my calm and her patience, we were running out of time. And that was the problem. We kept waking up at the same time, still shared groceries, still discussed plans for the weekend like people who assumed there would always be another one. I didn't bring it up again, not because I didn't care, because I didn't want to force a conversation that might change things. I believed silence was neutral. It wasn't. Emily grew quieter, but not distant in the way movies portray it. She didn't withdraw affection. She didn't punish me. She simply stopped reaching. And when someone stops reaching, it takes a while to notice, especially if you're used to being the one who stays still. One evening, we cooked dinner together. Nothing special. Pasta. Music playing low. The kind of moment I used to think defined us. At one point, she leaned against the counter and watched me, not lovingly, not critically, just observantly. "You don't ask anymore," she said. "Ask what?" "Anything," she replied. I wanted to argue, to say I listened, that I was present, but I realized she was right. I waited for information instead of inviting it. That night, she told me more about the program, how competitive it was, how long it would last, how uncertain everything felt. I nodded, asked practical questions. Housing, finances, timeline. She answered patiently, but something in her eyes dimmed with every logical response. "I don't know if I want to go alone," she said quietly. I heard the words. I didn't hear the meaning. I told her we'd figure it out when the time came, that there was no rush. She smiled faintly. That smile felt like an ending rehearsal. Days passed, then weeks. The acceptance email came. She didn't show it to me right away. I found out because she told her sister first. That hurt, more than I expected. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. She hesitated. "I didn't know how you'd react," she said. That should have been my wake-up call. Instead, I defended myself. I told her I'd never stopped her from anything, that I supported her ambitions, that she should know that by now. "I know," she said, "but support isn't the same as engagement." We argued then, not loudly, but thoroughly, every sentence measured, every emotion filtered. She told me she felt like she was always narrating her inner world to someone who never stepped inside it. I told her I showed love through stability. She asked when stability had become an excuse to stay distant. That question stayed unanswered. The night before she had to confirm her spot in the program, she sat on the bed beside me. Not touching, just close enough to feel the warmth. "If I go," she asked, "will you come with me?" I froze. Not because I didn't love her, because the question demanded a decision I'd been postponing for years. I thought about my job, my routine, the life I'd built carefully. I thought about how much I hated uncertainty. "I don't know," I said, and the moment the words left my mouth, I knew they weren't enough. She nodded slowly, like she'd expected that answer, like she'd already adjusted her expectations to fit it. "I didn't need a promise," she said. "I needed to know I mattered more than comfort." She went to sleep facing the wall. I stayed awake longer than usual, not panicked, just aware. For the first time, I realized that time wasn't something we had. It was something she was running out of. And I was still treating it like a resource that placed in the program on a Friday morning. I knew because she told me. Not excited, not apologetic, just honest. "I'm going," she said. I nodded. I told myself I'd known this was coming. But knowing something intellectually doesn't prepare you emotionally. We spent the next few weeks in an in-between state. Not broken up, not together, existing in parallel. We talked more than we had in months. Strangely, that hurt the most. All the honesty that arrived only after the deadline had passed. She asked me questions I'd never answered fully. What I wanted from life. What scared me. Why I always needed certainty before commitment. I didn't have clean answers. I never had. I'd just been good at hiding that. The night before her move, we sat on the floor of the half-empty apartment, boxes stacked neatly, her life condensed into cardboard. "I don't think you ever meant to hurt me," she said. "I just think you believed love would wait." That sentence broke something open in me. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that I loved her deeply, that I was just built differently. But love that isn't expressed in time sounds a lot like regret. I asked her if there was any chance. She thought carefully before answering. "I don't want to resent you," she said, "and I don't want you to follow me out of fear." We hugged, longer than we ever had before. Not desperately, intentionally. When she left the next morning, I stood in the doorway and watched her go. I didn't chase, not because I didn't care, because I finally understood what chasing would mean, changing for the moment, not for real. The apartment felt unfamiliar without her, not empty, exposed. Weeks passed, then months. I felt things I'd avoided for years: loneliness, longing, regret that wasn't sharp, just heavy. I noticed how often I'd chosen comfort over connection, how often I'd mistaken calm for love. I started therapy, not because I was broken, because I wanted to understand why staying still felt safer than stepping forward. I thought about her often, not with bitterness, with clarity. A year later, she sent me a message. Short, kind. She was happy. She hoped I was too. I replied honestly. I told her I was learning. I don't know if we'll ever meet again. That's not the point. The point is this: love doesn't leave because it isn't strong. It leaves when it isn't met. I still believe in stability. I just don't believe it's enough on its own anymore. Because waiting feels safe until you realize you're waiting alone.